One of the most common tasks that you probably perform when you're administering your Windows Server 2003 machines is to create shared folders and to manage shared folder permissions. So in this exercise, we're going to walk through the process of creating a new shared folder and then also look at some ways in which you can monitor the shared folder to find out which users are accessing it across the network. So let's start by creating a new folder. I'm going to do this by going to the E drive on my Windows Server 2003 machine. Now this machine has already been configured using the file server role. I'll create a new folder and I'll call it marketing. And you'll notice that by default, of course, the folder has not been shared. I'm going to go into the marketing folder and I've already got some files copied to the clipboard, so I'm going to create some test files within this folder. So you'll see there's 9 files within here. We'll use these later to test connectivity across the network. Now we'll right-click on the marketing folder and go to Sharing and Security. This will open up the properties of the marketing folder and specifically the Sharing tab. In this case, we want to go ahead and share this folder. You'll notice that the default share name is, in general, is going to be the same as the name of the folder. And we'll type a description here. Okay. A couple of other settings that we can set when we're creating a new share include the user limit. And by default, the option is set to maximum allowed. And what this means is that there's either no limit in the case of if you're using per client Windows Server 2003 licensing, or the maximum number of concurrent connections that are allowed on the server if you're using per server licensing. You can also specify a limit. For example, if you only want 10 members of the marketing department to be able to open files on this share at a time, you can go ahead and specify some value here. In this case, we'll just go ahead and choose the maximum allowed. Another interesting set of settings is permissions, so we'll click on that. And you'll notice that the default settings are for members of the Everyone group to have read access, but that's it. There are no other permissions that are set by default at the share level. So in this case, we'll go ahead and leave the default settings because we don't want people to be able to modify any of the files in the marketing department folder. Notice that these permissions also go in conjunction with settings that are on the Security tab so that you can specify security at 2 different levels. You can specify them at the level of the shared folder and at the level of the NTFS file system. Now that we've created the share, I'll go ahead and click on OK. You'll notice that in Windows Explorer, the icon for the folder changes. Now that we've created the marketing shared folder, let's see how we can monitor its use across the network. There are several ways you can do this in Windows Server 2003. For example, one option is to use the Computer Management tool by right-clicking on the My Computer icon and clicking on Manage. In this example, we're going to use the File Server Management Console, which is something new in Windows Server 2003. The easiest way to access the File Server Management Console is to use the Manage Your Server administrative tool. And once you've configured your server under the File Server role, you'll notice that there's an option here for Manage this file server. When we click this button, it'll launch the File Server Management tool, which I already have open here. Now the File Server Management Console allows you to perform some of the most common tasks that are related to managing what you would expect to manage for a file server. Specifically, we're going to take a look at 3 options. First are the shares, which shows the shares that are, have been configured on the local machine. So you'll notice that there are all the basic administrative shares, including admin, C, D, E, IPC, NetLogon, and system volume. Also, you'll see here the marketing share that we created. There are several options on this first section of the File Server Management tool. For example, I can send a console message, which basically will send a message to the users who currently have either an open window to the marketing folder, marketing shared folder, or people that have any files open on that folder. I can also change some of the shared folder properties, just like we did earlier. And I can choose to create a new shared folder here. For the sake of this exercise, we're just going to view some information. So let's go ahead and move on to the Sessions section. And a session is considered a connection from one client computer on the system. Here you can see that I've got 2 users, both logged in as administrator on their respective machines, that are connecting to the server. So I've created one connection from another remote machine called Gabo, and another connection from the local machine, just for illustration purposes. Some other useful information includes how long the users have been connected, And also the idle time. And the idle time can be useful if, for example, you're planning to restart this server and you want to see if anybody's actively using any of the files or any of the shared folders on the server. I also have the option to disconnect all of the sessions. It's also important to note that this display does not automatically refresh, so I can click the refresh button to get an updated list of connected time and idle time for all of the shares on the server. And finally, from the session level, I can click on Open Files to drill down to find out exactly which files are open on the server. And this is actually useful if somebody's saying that they're trying to open a file but it's set to read-only, or they're not able to modify a file and you're trying to troubleshoot that problem. You might want to find out who's actually accessing it over the network. So as you can see, using the File Server Management Console, you can get a lot of information about the shared folders that you're hosting on your Windows Server 2003 machine.